If you can find secluded water that's like undercover, just like you would with a lot of whitetails, put a camera on that and you'll probably have a bear within a week or so. We go back to the truck and we're loading up. I have my pack ready. I turn around to put it on and there's a bear 40 yards working its way up the same trail we just came out of.
To celebrate the start of bear season, we have just about the perfect guest for a day like today.
That's right. Who we got, Kyle?
And that is Kolby Morehead, the owner of Bear Hunting Magazine.
Yep.
What's going on, man?
A lot of baiting.
A lot of baiting.
Yeah.
You've been
a lot
busy.
of heavy packs.
You've been busy lately. I know that.
Yeah. I'm packing in heavy, packing out light right now, hoping to reverse it.
Dude, you've been showing pictures before we started going. Just You've been busy, man, in the woods. And you've got a couple sites going right now, or just one?
If I had to, I would die. No, I'm putting all my eggs in one basket this year, and it looks like it's going to pay off.
Yeah. Heck yeah, man.
A lot of promise.
By the trail cam pictures, it's definitely going to look like it's going to pay off.
I mean,
Yeah.
you got
Real
so
good.
many bears on that camera right now.
I'm having to chase them off, man. Today.
Yeah, just today. Yeah, so you went in what what'd your day look like today?
Oh man, I think I went and picked up some bait, and then I got out there and I had a buddy with me, and we go down, and he was really wanting to see a bear, so before we went down and made a bunch of noise and everything, we kind of snuck, and you have to go down into this bench, you have to go down, and we probably dropped it's probably like 100 vertical feet would be my guess over like a super short space and time.
Yeah.
So it's just a constant down. But we go to the edge and look down and he sees a bear. It's like, all right.
He did it.
Yeah.
Cross it off the list.
Yeah. And then we go back to the truck and get everything going. And then we go back down there and I have to push this bear off the bait. I mean, I probably get within like 20 yards before he moves a muscle,
Yeah.
Later, he was telling his wife and my wife, like, Kolby's a maniac. He's like, why did you know that thing wouldn't come at you? I was like, I've killed more bears than he has.
Yeah.
No, they're scaredy cats for the most part. So
Yeah. That's cool, man. It's a cool video. You got it all on video, and
Yeah.
you're legit walking straight up to this bear, like, "Hey, go away."
talking to him later, I called him a pretty boy and just attacked his manhood.
Is that what made him finally run?
That's when
Yeah,
he
I was
left.
like, get out of here, pretty boy.
He's like, "I'm not putting up with this crap."
Fine. I'll either fight you or leave. I guess I'll leave.
Yeah, and whenever you're growing up, you're always trying to heighten your senses and just work on like identifying bears. And so I'm like, all right, not a shooter.
Yeah.
And it's like boar or sow, and I just like it was a boar.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of rapid fire questions to kick us off. This is something we've been doing for a little bit.
Been doing a little bit more just to kind of,
Yeah.
Open it up, get to know you a little bit. It's our first time meeting you.
Do you get a lot of deer in headlight stares on rapid fire, or are they not that?
Uh,
that hard?
Typically
haven't
not as
yet.
rapid fire as we
Okay.
make them out to be.
We can pretend like they are, and Daniel can edit them to be faster.
There you go.
Daniel, I need you to take 2.57 seconds of space out of it.
Make them quick.
So I've got some rapid fire, non-rapid fire questions for you.
All right.
You ready for this?
Yeah, I need it.
Turkeys or ducks?
Turkeys right now. Growing up, ducks.
Okay.
100%. East Texas is where I grew up, and we were duck hunting hard
I like
for a
that.
while. Yeah.
I like that. Smallmouth or trout?
Haven't caught a trout yet.
Haven't caught a trout yet.
No.
Have you tried to catch a trout?
Dude, we need to go
Man,
fishing.
Yeah, I'll take you fishing. Take
Here's
you
the
bear
thing.
hunting.
I just got into fly fishing. It was actually during COVID, but I don't blame COVID for it. But I got into fly fishing up here, and I've just been catching panfish and stuff out in like national forests around like
Heck yeah.
just Devil's Den and stuff. I haven't been into cold water. Tried to go to Yellowstone and fish up there on the Green River, and got skunked.
Really?
Yeah. And so
Dang.
I'm ready to go after my first trout, but it just hasn't happened.
Man,
I
it's
got
fun.
a new rod and everything.
Let us know when you want to go.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll take you.
Got to break it in.
Yeah. It's one of those.
We'll get you on a big trout.
Vespers, the moonshine rod.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are nice.
Yeah. So
So smallmouth's your answer?
I'm gonna say smallmouth.
Okay.
I would rather,
Because
I would rather say perch because that's what I.
Because that's what you're catching.
Yeah,
I like that.
They're fun.
They're
colorful and
Yeah.
they fight.
If you want to
like
learn
they're
how to
big.
catch fish on a fly rod, you go after the panfish and the perch.
Now hold on. We got to talk about perch.
I think you
versus
should say like woolly
sunfish.
booger or popper.
That's true too.
A perch that's a Texas thing because in the Ozarks that's a sunfish or it's a long ear sunfish or it's a green sunfish. There's that.
Yeah.
It's depending on where you're from. You call it different stuff.
You know, there's certain things that I'm just going to bring from Texas and be okay with it.
You got to own where you're from, I guess.
Yeah,
It's a good thing we let you on this podcast here, Kolby.
I'm a transplant.
I got that true Ozarkan blood running through me. You say Texas, and it kind of bristles a little bit.
You've been here long enough.
Yeah, you've been here long enough. Absolutely.
Mountains or piney woods? Mountains.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, mountains or piney woods?
Mountains.
Mountains. I like it. Good answer. What about
Let's just say I'm never planning on moving from here.
Okay,
I don't miss Texas.
it's good. We can be friends.
Yeah. But I did buy my lifetime license there before I left because I still want to dip my toe in
Pretty sweet.
from
Okay.
time to time.
I
can
get all of our
respect that.
Texas listeners are going to hate us.
They're gonna be like,
Intro.
These guys.
I graduated from
Texas.
Texas A&M. I'm always going to root for Texas A&M. So,
All right, we'll cut that out.
yeah. Whenever I go to things, I don't do the hog call, okay? There's
What
lines.
about raccoons or squirrels?
Oh, man. I'm going to say squirrels. I got squirrel dogs now, but coon hunting. I mean, growing up, we ran a bunch of hounds, and we coon hunted and hog hunted with hounds, like, from as far back as I can remember. So coon hunting has a special place in my heart, but I'm really enjoying like getting around squirrel dogs and running them. Especially, it's like a nice cool down after hunting hard in the winter. So like typically we'll run, Squirrel Palooza, and we'll do that like January and February. So
That's
I'm
fun.
gonna say squirrels now.
There you go.
That's fun. All right, final one. Whitetail or black bear?
It's different seasons, man.
It
Black
doesn't have to
bear,
be.
black bear. If I'm gonna choose,
Okay.
yeah.
I
But
think that's a little obvious.
yeah. But I always have a special place for whitetail. I'm gonna
absolutely.
do both, but I mean I put a lot of work into the bear things and usually finish it out quick and do a lot of spring hunts and I try to save space for whitetail.
Mhm.
If I don't get it done on bait early, I've got another hunt up in Maine, and once I get back from that, I'm gonna be pounding the mountains and just whatever I see. Like
Yeah.
I'll hunt whitetail and bear at the same time.
Mhm.
So
It makes
Okay.
sense for this area in Arkansas. You kind of got to get them over bait.
yeah,
And if that doesn't happen, you'll go whitetail hunting.
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. To kick off the episode, so I want to get into some intro, but to set the stage, so here's what we're doing. Today's opening day of bear season. We want to talk with you about bear hunting, obviously, go into some tactics, but also I just kind of given that today is the start of the day or the start of the season, maybe we go into a little bit like if you haven't been doing some baiting and stuff like that, or if you're up in the Missouri Ozarks or somewhere where you can't bait, like what are some things you can do, as well as just kind of like the traditional tactics. So
Yeah.
that's where I want to go. But before we go there, we always start with where are you from? How'd you get into bear hunting? Kind of what's your upbringing? You mentioned East Texas. Tell me the story. How'd you get here?
I got you, Kyle and Kyle. So, to give a little context, my dad, whenever I was born, was a commercial fisherman. And he also did some trapping, he was in the fur trade. So, my last, I think it's cool because the last payment on whenever I was born to the hospital came from a bobcat my dad got. And so, like, they needed $60. He got $86 for it.
That's cool.
Yeah. And so basically, I mean, like I grew up on the river and Sulphur River specifically in East Texas. And just, I mean, just running those things, and some people I've heard call my dad like the Daniel Boone of East Texas.
Okay.
He just eat, live, breathe it, like it's saturated and permeated into our lives. So I really haven't known another life outside of just things inside of the outdoors. And I became friends with, or I met Clay back in 2007 before the magazine or anything. And when he took over the magazine, I subscribed just to help him out.
Yeah.
I was just like, I just want to support a buddy. And so I got him for years and just had a stack going.
Yeah.
Never read them.
Stacking them up.
Yeah. And then he started his YouTube channel. And I was like, might actually want to hunt a bear. Because the thing is we all have these cultural norms that get implanted in us in wherever we grow up, and inside of my space, we ate everything that we harvested, or with the exception of a coyote,
Mm.
and and that was just predator control.
Yeah.
And I didn't really have a desire to go hunt a predator, just for fun, And I had no connection to bears because we didn't have any bears in East Texas. And so whenever I saw Clay doing that and started to learn more about bears and bear hunting, I was like, man, there's something special about them. I would like to experience that. And so I ended up hunting with Clay in Canada in 2018. And after that experience, I mean, I was hooked. And I think there's something special about being on a really good baited bear hunt because you get to just see them in a different way. I think that connected me deeper, um, inside of just respecting them as just individual critters and not, just seeing them as a whole, just seeing like the individuality. Like I've never seen something come in and you just see how you can see a different personality inside of each one.
Right.
And I would even see some, I'm like, man, I'm not shooting that. Like, I was like, the thing's too cool.
You took a liking to him.
It was like he came, he stood up at the base of the stand, he looked at us and just settled down. He's like, he knew we were there, and he's like, we're bros.
These my people.
It's like, I'm not messing with you.
These are my fellow bears.
Yeah. He's like, thanks for the abundance. And then, but then a bigger bear came in, and Clay. It was great because Clay sat with me the first day, and he because otherwise I probably would have just shot the first thing.
Sure, yeah.
And so he's like, those are really good bears, but up here, that's not what you're after. And I think that's the thing that's been really valuable is you hunt the bears in the region that you're after, and you look at the method of take, like we're not as picky on a spot and stalk hunt. It's like you can't be selective. That's why bait comes in and is such an important factor, is because you can be selective. You can go after the older, bigger age class males. And but on a spot and stalk, it's like seeing a bear is a big victory. And so, beggars can't be choosers.
Yeah, you kind of just take what you get.
Yeah, I mean, like if you think he might still have some milk on his lip, obviously you shouldn't shoot that. You don't want to like make a pack out that easy.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
consider where you're at.
Yeah. So I think that was really good. Just like there was already like some context that was being laid down, and just hunting things like regionally, because I hadn't really even traveled to hunt. So I mean, it was like first bear hunt out of the country, big bears, like world class area. I mean, like I dove off the deep end.
Yeah, that's a big trip to just go head first into.
I have this running joke that anything in my life is just trial by fire. And once it happens, it's just like a deep end, a deep dive. But anyways, a larger bear came in and pushed those bears off, and I ended up taking that one. I mean, he was over a 350-pound bear. I started out like, hardcore, and still to this day, like I've only killed bears with bows. Like I'm still looking for my first like rifle.
Like Montana, across the mountain,
man,
that kind of deal.
Well, I've been on a couple of those hunts, and yeah, maybe Montana, but I really fell in love with Oregon this fall, going up there, and I think I'll probably go back out there in the spring if I can draw a tag. Oregon's a special place. Like,
I believe it.
Yeah,
I've never been up that way.
Yeah, we can talk about that stuff later, but it's a special state.
Yeah, this is the Ozark podcast,
yeah,
man.
yeah. Well, I feel like being in such a cool place like the Ozarks, coming from East Texas, I've learned to appreciate new areas and what they have to offer.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
But I will say the Ozarks is home. Like, I don't plan on ever leaving, but, I'll vacation elsewhere.
So you dove into bear hunting.
Yeah, so dove into bear hunting. And then, man, I just felt like a change. Like I was in the IT sphere in Dallas, and man, I wanted to be a part of what Clay was doing and help with the business, and I had a large group of friends up here too, and I just needed a change. Not needed, but I just felt like it was the right move.
Sure.
So sold the house, moved up, and just started like working for the magazine, helping Clay, and then bears just became my world, and yeah, I mean, that's really how I got deep inside of it. It was just one of those things I hunted them, and it was just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the other big factors was the next night after I killed my bear. I killed it on the first night. I became Clay's cameraman that night, and we had just like an unbelievable hunt that evening. And we were hunting off of the ground in the blind versus being up in a tree.
Oh,
so
that's cool.
I was like,
You're like right there with them.
oh man, I was looking at him to understand how I should feel. Like when I try something new, it's like I don't know how I should feel.
How do you feel?
How do you feel about this?
Are you
Okay, I
scared?
guess I'm okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's real.
yeah, and we actually had a bear come, and like it was from here to just the other side of the table here, and it was coming under some brush and looking up at me, and it had been going back and forth and checking us out several times.
That's like 4 feet away.
Yeah, and then Clay was like, he pulled the bear spray out, and he's like, "That's the first time I've ever pulled bear spray out." And so it's that whole trial by fire, like, I'm getting everything right now, you know.
Doing it.
Yeah. So I mean, at that hunt sealed the deal, and I knew they were special, and it was something that I wanted to continue pursuing, even if I hadn't moved to Arkansas.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah.
We've asked quite a few people, I think, who are professional guides or have made their living in the outdoor world, and I think you're the first person we've talked to who, correct me if I'm wrong here, Kyle,
Yeah.
but went from Dallas IT into, like, I mean, such a dramatic switch to
Yeah.
this is changing my life. This is epic. I want to be a part of this.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
care what it does. We're in.
Man,
Like,
when,
that's
when
cool.
when you know that you're supposed to do something, you just sell everything you got and just go. You know, I
gotta
moved
do
here
it.
before my house sold. I was like, I know this is what I need to do, and so it's like, let's go.
Yeah.
You
Man,
know,
that's cool.
That
it's
is cool.
easier when you're not married at the time.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
You know,
Yeah, it's always a little bit easier.
yeah.
So you moved up here, you started kicking things off and helping Clay.
Mhm.
At what point did kind of Bear Hunting Magazine become yours?
Uh, so it was a little while after Clay started Meat Eater or started working for Meat Eater. It was just clear that things were going to really take off as far as like the requirement of time for him, and we tried to do it, you know, together for a while, and it was just clear that it's like, man, this is going to require a lot of his time, so we got to make a shift. And he was like, you should buy the magazine.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, it was kind of bittersweet because it was one of those things of I'm moving here to build something with somebody else, and it's like, oh man, I got to do this solo now. I mean,
Yeah.
like, you know, he helped out a lot and like steered things, and you know, I still, you know, get counsel from him, you know,
Sure,
here
yeah.
and there. But it was just clear that that was the trajectory for both of our lives, and then I bought the magazine, and then a week and a half later, I got married. So we're like, let's just take on everything at once.
Here we go.
Trial by fire. Like, yeah, but no, it was a great time, and owning the magazine has been just like a crazy like life switch. Like even from just working in it to owning, it's been a big shift, and it really like, you know, whenever you go into this realm of like entrepreneurship or owning a business,
Mm-hmm.
it really like forges something different inside of you that, I mean, it's not easy,
Mhm.
you know, by any means. And all of a sudden you have to be really well rounded in a lot of different things. You know,
Sure.
you have to be a jack of all trades to make a small business work.
Yeah, man.
So-
You wear a lot of hats when you're the
Yeah.
only guy.
Yeah, it's true.
So are you the only guy? Are there other people kind of doing what you did for Clay, coming and helping, or
It's,
how's it work?
It's mainly me. I got a buddy that helps out. Some he doesn't work a lot of hours, but it takes a lot off of my plate. You know, handling a lot of the administrative stuff.
Yeah.
And that's just something that's come into play. You know, more recently. I mean, but like, I design all the magazines. Like, you know, I do all the everything.
You're
know,
out in the
I have my
field
hand
getting the
everything.
pictures. And
Yeah. I'm it's everything.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's cool.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
interviewing the guests and having them write articles and all that kind of stuff.
Well, we take a lot of submissions, and so
That's the word I was looking for.
yeah,
Thanks.
we run a lot of subscriber submissions. You know,
Okay.
if they have a cool article or a cool story, or I mean, and so a lot of it is just the average Joe, and I think it's cool because it's like everyone has the opportunity to have their voice like heard or their story.
Mm-hmm.
We also have freelance writers that will submit a few articles throughout the year. And then we have our normal columnists that really, you know, carry a big portion of the magazine, and they're in every single one of them.
Right.
Yeah, so it's a mixed bag.
Yeah. Heck
Yeah.
yeah, man. Well, cool. Well, let's get into, so today's opening day. Let's get into some of the stuff that obviously you were talking about. You're baiting right now. You're heading out and putting time in. It's hot. It's sweaty. I know you're working hard.
Boy, that 100-degree
back
middle of the
must be
day
sore.
weather was rough last week.
Yeah, man. It's been crazy. So
Yeah.
talk to me a little bit about, before we get into some of that stuff like baiting and all that. What's kind of going on right now with bears? Break down some of the behavior that you're looking for, or that you just know is going on. Like, what makes right now and going into the season, just that time of the year where obviously it's season and you can hunt them, but like, what are they doing? What are bears thinking right now?
I mean, they're just thinking what they're always thinking: food and water, and then I mean, that's really it. If you can find secluded water that's like undercover, just like you would with a lot of whitetails, where you can get away from a main population and just get into, just a denser area that has some water, put a camera on that and you'll probably have a bear, within a week or so, depending on how close the other spot is. And they just love like treacherous terrain.
Okay.
It's really bizarre. Like I find more bears inside of that area. And it's just interesting. Like, one of the things that came up I was talking to Myron Means, and the large carnivore biologist in Arkansas, and he was talking about even the difference between like the Ozark bears and then the bears down in the Gulf and the bears in the Ouachitas. Like they're so specialized for the regions that they're in, and so it's kind of hard to nail down everything and fully encompass what you should do. But I think really just focus on the food and the water and the cover. Every trail cam photo I have right now or video of bears on bait, they're all huffing and puffing like they're not loving this hot weather.
Yeah.
They're feeling it, and so I mean they're staying close to water. A lot of times, if you put a camera on a water hole, you'll even find bears getting in there. And I put one on my Instagram the other day of a bear coming in, just laying in. It was an elk wallow. I left a camera behind in Oregon just to see what was happening, and it got in the mud, got up and shook off like a Labrador.
Just trying to cool off.
Just trying to cool off, man.
Wow.
And so, I mean, for a large portion of it, you can kind of think of like what would make you comfortable, And then they're such scavengers. Like they just go through the forest, and most of the time, just in the woods. If you're looking for bear sign, you look for like dug up yellow jacket nests, and they love to dig those up and eat the larva. And then just like out west, they called it bear scratch, but they'll dig into rotting logs, and get the insects out. Like they'll eat a lot more insect protein than they will like carrion. They won't eat a lot. I mean, they'll go after fawns during the early season when they're easy to catch, but they're not going to chase an older fawn.
Right. They're not going to chase an older fawn that's almost a year old.
Yeah.
In the fall.
Yeah. So, they're after the easy scavenge food. And then before the acorns drop, you can even find them sometimes up in the canopy. They'll be up on a branch and eating an acorn. It's pretty crazy how comfortable they are in a tree. Like I've hunted last year. I was on a hunt. And it was one of those like awesome days where bears were just everywhere.
Yeah.
And I saw a bear leave the bait, walk out like 150 yards, and then it climbed a tree and got on a branch and just slept on a low branch.
No way.
Yeah, and this
Slept up in the tree.
This wasn't a cub. Like it wasn't a baby.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're just at home in the environments that they're in.
Yeah.
And it's cool. I mean, I think the best approach if you're hunting public land, if you can't find like a water source that's really like that's really locked down, and the closest one for a ways, you just got to invest a lot of boot leather, and find where you're looking for. If you come into an area, especially once the hard masses drop, or like some food source that's concentrated, when you can start finding a lot of bear scat, it's kind of the king of bear sign.
Okay.
And so you just pound it just pound the ground. And once you find good fresh bear sign, a lot of it, you just pretty much just sit down, just
Yeah.
still hunt.
Yeah.
You know,
Are they pretty habitual creatures in the way that they roll through an area? Like if you find scat in one spot, are they pretty likely to come through there once a week, or
I don't think so.
you don't think so?
No, no, they range.
Okay.
They range, especially the boars.
Yeah.
Especially in that June timeline, whenever they're in their rut. That June, July kind of timeline. Like they go from the rut to eating calves and fawns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about like group behavior? Are they kind of hanging out with each other right now, or are boars off on their own doing their own thing?
No,
I saw a few pictures you were showing us, and you had 4 or 5 on the camera at once.
That's the same. That's the same concept as if you saw a bunch of brown bears on a salmon stream. Like they're going to go where food's plentiful, and when food's plentiful, they'll tolerate each other more.
Gotcha.
But if it wasn't for the bait right there, they probably wouldn't.
No,
They wouldn't be hanging out.
No. If you see bears together, it's going to be sow and cubs.
Okay.
I mean, there's always exceptions to the rule, and when you think you
Sure.
have black bears figured out, they prove you wrong.
Yeah.
Like they can be very frustrating critters
Yeah.
if you try to figure them out. I mean, there's stories of bears even like in a red gummy bear and not an orange gummy bear.
Oh, gosh.
Like they're selective, and you might have another one. Like, and if you go like up in Canada, they use a lot of beaver and like carcasses, and bears will go for that, and they won't touch it down here. So like, you can't say. And that's the thing is, whenever you see people telling you exactly how you should do it on social or something, it's like, no, you need to learn how to think, not the rules.
Yeah.
And I think that's the cool thing about hunting is once you like shift to where you're trying to figure out how to think and not figuring out rules.
Mm-hmm.
I think that sets you up really well. I remember I used to teach guys how to drive forklifts when I was in college, and whenever I was doing that, I wasn't trying to tell them exactly how to do everything. I was trying to teach them how to think, because like each scenario is going to change, and so learn how to think.
Yeah.
Think about that, and not, oh, here's a hickory tree I should sit under here, or here's there's white oaks.
Yeah.
Just because that white oaks dropping acorns doesn't mean that's where they're going to be. So
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Getting into kind of fall and where we're at today with opening day. You talked a little bit about, we kind of mentioned if you're hunting over bait, that's easier.
mhm.
What if you're not? Or like, what if you're just hearing this today and you're like, yeah, but I'm hyped. Like I want to try to like hunt a bear. What can you do right now? Can you start baiting now if you're in somewhere that you can bait, or is it too late? Or if you're not going to bait, what's your plan of action?
And it's kind of hard because, I mean, you could start baiting, but especially in zone 1, there's a quota. I think it's like 400 bears this year.
Mm-hmm.
And this year, if there was ever a year for the quota to be met, it would be this year. We have a much earlier season, and the bears are fat too. Like, so I went on I'm jumping down rabbit holes, but I went on a den study this last year, and it was cool to see how fat the bears were from last year's. Just every tree dropped its acorns at once,
Right.
and they were all just fat. And I mean, this was sow with cubs, and so I'm seeing a lot of fat bears now.
It's a good thing.
And they're just going to get fatter. And this is the year to do it because bear fat is amazing, But I think if you really wanted to hunt, you could try to bait. I would say that you need to use a commercial scent. We always use Northwoods. There's one that's like a butterscotch smell called Gold Rush. And we mix that with fryer grease, and then we pour it on whatever bait that we put out.
Okay.
And I actually talked to someone the other day. They usually open up their baits with Northwoods, and they had ran out, and they didn't have any this season yet. And so I gave them a little bit of mine. They said they had that bait out for 4 days and no activity whatsoever. And then they put that Northwoods on there, and within 12 hours there was bears on it.
Man.
And I think that's one of the, if you're going to open up a bait, you don't really need to, use commercial scents because they're so much sweeter to, like, the bears will key in on that sweet smell.
Yeah.
And if the acorns are dropped, you're pretty much out of luck. Like if the hard masses hit the ground, like there's no, don't try to compete with natural foods.
Right. They just
Yeah.
got food everywhere.
You're just wasting your money. I mean, like you could get a smaller bear coming in, or you might get a bear just passing, but it's just not worth it.
Yeah.
You know, you can spend a lot of money on bait.
Yeah, you can.
You can.
Especially if you're like you and starting early and
Yeah.
trying to get a bunch of bears
Let
on
me tell you,
camera and all
next
that.
year, if I hunt this same spot, if I get permission again, it's going to be, boy, it's going to be like a 10-day bait. I'm not huffing it up and down the mountain if I don't have to. I mean, because they were hitting it like right after. I mean,
right away.
they
Yeah.
hit it hard. Yeah.
The hard mass last year, I guess, dropped super early, right?
Yeah. Because last year was supposed to be the year of promise, man. Like,
And it didn't happen.
no.
So this year, do you think, even with an earlier season, we've had a lot of rain. I don't know what that does. But
Well, last year
was the drought.
we were talking with
Stress
Myron
out.
That's
too,
what
and
it
he was
was.
saying the drought made everything drop all at once because
Uh-huh.
those trees just didn't hold on to their crop.
so this year,
Mhm.
we're looking
They
better.
were stressed.
Had plenty of rain.
I feel like
hopefully.
it. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, the same pond that I got pictures of bears on this time last year was just, I mean, it was the size of a kiddie pool, just about a little more,
Mhm.
and it's pretty full this year. So,
Mhm. Yeah.
So it seems like it may hold off. Seems like baiting's a good idea,
yeah.
which may even mean if you're listening to this today and you're thinking, I may
Mhm.
want to do this, like give it a
Mhm.
shot.
Give it a
The
shot.
other-
Go for a week, see what
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah, the other thing is there was an article several years back talking about late is great, and it was a guy that had baited bears more during the muzzleloader season or like a little after. Like he started baiting bears after most of the acorns were eaten up, and so like there is an opportunity to try a later bait
Yeah.
and give it a shot.
Just kind of you got to take into account what's going on around you.
Mhm.
If the acorns are still on the ground,
hmm
you're competing with that natural resource.
Yeah, and you don't have to do a full all out bait. Like you could just go test it out. You
Mhm.
know, I did that last year in Oklahoma where I just went and put some corn out and put some sand on it, and bears hit it fast. And
Mm.
so we were like, oh, let's target this area.
Mm-hmm.
And we had bears on it. It was a bad scenario because they ran a 5K down the leash road the opening weekend. And so, it's like the animals knew it. Like the closer we got to the date, all of a sudden, less and less critters.
Yeah.
And, bears roam. Like, sure, the bears left, but the deer left too. We were like,
Sounds like a
You're like,
5K ruining your
nothing's
hunting
left
season.
here.
yeah, running a 5K down the leash road. That was the sign on the door saying, not again.
Yeah. I want to ask you a question that's a little bit may seem like a side topic, but gear wise, if you're going to hunt bears, what do you kind of keep in your pack, or what's some stuff that you want to have if you're going to go down this road and go hunting bears?
I mean, just whatever whatever you'd hunt whitetail with, you
Yeah.
know. I mean, I just think a good pair of boots that you can put time and effort into, like pounding and scouting,
Mm-hmm.
because you want to find. It's not like a deer where you find sign and you can just set up on a trail and within a couple of days, or if set up on a scrape, do 3-day all sits and then you be in the chips. Bears just don't act like that. They're always after where the food is, like the new spot. They're going to go where the heaviest concentration of caloric density is.
Mm,
You
right.
know, so I would just say a good pair of boots.
Yeah.
And Onyx, like man, Onyx is a great tool. If you put it in topo mode, you can see it'll highlight the water holes that you wouldn't see just looking at the satellite image.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I find a lot of stuff. It's just like if I'm going into a new area, I'll put it in topo mode and I'll go drop a pin on every water hole and just put a droplet above it or whatever I put on it, I'll turn it like a light blue color.
Yeah.
And that way, when I go over to the satellite mode or that hybrid mode, I'll go in and have a more complete picture of like, all right, so where are they going to be getting water? Where are they probably going to be like laid up during the day? And I don't think anyone will ever truly figure out bears here. There's guys that can kill them intentionally, but there's a few things that they know about them.
Mm-hmm.
But there's so many different things on the individual bear. It's just hard to like time them down.
Yeah.
They have bears that all of a sudden just go several states that they have collared, or
just
whatever.
like completely go out of range.
Yeah. They'll just like do something crazy.
You're like, yeah, we can't explain that one.
Yeah.
Are you shooting a fixed broadhead or an expandable broadhead?
I've never used an expandable. I kind of I like the idea of less movable parts.
Mhm.
Even in vehicles in the past, whenever like I would have like lean times but need a vehicle, if I couldn't afford to fix it, I was like, let me just get the least amount of things that can break.
Right.
And so I know that expandables give you the ability to maybe have a better flight path. A lot of guys really like them, but uh, you know, I would say that fixed blades are going to be a better option.
Mhm.
Also, I mean, like, there's always so many things, variables on getting a broadhead to open that's an expandable. And I feel like I'd like to have something that cuts on contact. I don't want something to take some, you know, when it starts going in, if it doesn't cut on contact, you're losing something,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right.
And with bears,
Some
we like
energy
to,
is coming out of it
yeah.
somewhere.
And with bears, we really like to prioritize 2 holes because they don't bleed hardly. And so a good broadhead is I like fixed,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And I mean right now I'm shooting I shot my last bear with iron wheels when they're single bevels but the 100 grain
Is
with
that what you have,
bleeders.
Kyle?
I have a Kudu Point and Day 6.
Day 6.
Oh,
I was
okay.
thinking of.
I think Day 6 is what I shot the bear with 2 years ago.
Yeah. I hear those day 6 ones you really have to have your bows super tuned for them to shoot well.
That
But
was my experience.
if you
It was
have
kind of
them
a
super
pain.
tuned, like they're great.
Yeah.
Uh, I've had a lot of luck too with Slick Trick, those 4-bladed 100 grain magnums or whatever.
Okay.
That's what I've killed. I've killed more bears with those.
Yeah.
And last year I shot one with that and it didn't even go 20 yards.
Really?
Yeah, he just went out there and started death moaning like a banshee.
Yeah.
Like it's not that dramatic. I'm embellishing, but
Well, it is a crazy sound.
he was
so.
he was starting to death moan. Man, it was a spiritual like whenever you have something that's that you just shot and it goes out there and it starts making a sound
Yeah.
and it's like it's the sign that it's going to die like
Mhm.
Right.
when they don't death moan and move on.
Mhm.
And so when they're out there and it's like it's almost like one of those things like the Native Americans back in the day and probably other cultures too, like they had that counting coup thing where they would go out and they would touch their enemies as they would pass on. It's almost like that. It's almost like there's an aspect of that bear that's touching me inside of that moment. Man, I teared up.
Mhm.
It's one of those things because it's like there was a guy that wrote a article in the magazine a couple years ago, and whenever he shot a bear, the title of the article was called "I Loved Him Like a Brother," and I was like, that really will hit home with a lot of guys that whenever you hear a bear moan, just think about that. And it's like,
Wow.
oh man, it's almost like there's a loss here.
Mhm.
Like I'm pumped, and it's great that it was over fast. And,
Yeah.
it's not like they're in pain. Like I don't think that's why they do it. But
Yeah.
it's like they just understanding that it's like, oh yeah, this is done. I think a lot of times I think it happens more often than not if it's a good lung hit, and so it
Mhm.
could even have something to do with them like trying to like breathe or something. I don't know.
Right.
but-
And that makes sense with the bear being such a huge, majestic, just powerful animal that
Mhm.
Native Americans would have history with it.
Yeah.
Original settlers would have history with it.
hmm
Modern day bear hunters have that history with it. If you love it like a brother, you love it and you respect it, but you also understand conservationally why it's important, all that kind of stuff wrapped
Yeah.
up to it. But at the end of the day, it's also, yeah, I mean, you're right, it's spiritual, and you're in the woods, and it's a big critter,
Yeah.
and you just took steps and action to end its life, and so
Mhm.
there's a respect there for sure. That
Yeah.
I think as we probably over analyze or just throw technology at everything, you can kind of lose that. But at the end of the day, outdoorsmen are connected to the land. Like
Yeah.
we all are, every human being
Mhm.
ever. And so there's some give and take there. And
Yeah.
I've shot 2 bears and heard the death moan twice and have had similar reaction of like,
Yeah.
man, that's a kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
Like, there's
Man,
something there.
I mean, even whenever I kill a whitetail, even if it's a doe, it's not like one of those things where I come up and it's like, all right, let's get to work. It's
Mhm.
like, man,
Take it in.
Yeah, you got to take it in. You got to pay your respects.
Yeah.
So,
There's that tension there a little bit of like respecting something so much, but then killing it. And then I think like I can understand some people who have issue with that, right? They're like, how can you love and respect this animal so much, but then
Yeah.
hunt and kill it? What would you
It's
say?
complex.
What would you say to answer that, or someone who's like asking you that question? Like,
Yeah.
how can you do that?
Man, I heard Ranella use something years ago whenever he was talking to somebody that, was just talking to him about those things.
Right.
And I don't know, it was like just a Q&A or something. And he said that you have to look at it from the aspect of like you have a tree and you have a forest, and you can't focus so much. And I'm paraphrasing this, I'm probably getting it wrong, but you can't look at the tree so much and lose the overall view of the forest. And when you're taking we can't back in the day, like, they like to use the argument that bears are self-sufficient or like self-balancing.
Sure.
I mean, really, whenever we started taking out deforestation and all that, and the urban sprawl, critters can't just shift the way that they used to or balance out. Like you're taking too much away for them,
Too much too quickly.
too much too fast. I mean, maybe even like ever. I mean, they were designed to be able to use this total landscape, and
Right.
now it's like, I mean, I don't know. It's crazy to think that they can just balance things out when they're pushed into different zones and sectors.
Right.
It's like, oh well, they run too far this way, they're on a road.
Yeah.
And so just overall thinking about that and conservation, and you just have to take animals. And the other thing is knowing that, and this sounds counterintuitive, but really there's an aspect of doing that critter a favor by taking them out humanely and doing it fast and
Yeah.
well.
That's what
Like,
I think a lot of people don't think about is the flip side of it. If
Yeah.
they die naturally,
It's
which I think is where
worse.
you're going, right?
It's a lot worse, man. Like some predator come and take them out. I
Chew
mean,
on them while they're still alive. Like,
yeah,
that's a terrible way to
yeah,
go.
man. Yeah, there's a lot of animals. Like I used to think, like, man, if I were gonna get killed by something, what would I want it to be? It's not a bear. Like if I were gonna be killed by some wild animal, well, it's got to be one that's gonna like focus on the kill first.
Do it quick.
Yeah, some sort of cat.
Yeah, it is a tricky balance there, and I
Yeah.
think a lot of people like you get it. Even as someone who hunts and
Mhm.
respects bears, you get it because you're like, yeah, it is totally there to be respected, and you
Yeah.
have to appreciate what we have in that resource. But I remember Myron Means talking about as far as carrying capacity, we probably have more biological carrying capacity that we could keep more black bears in the Ozarks.
Mhm.
However, we're pretty much at that line of like society, sociological carrying capacity of like
Mhm.
at this point, if bears were to continue to grow and we were to stop hunting them, you have those young boars pushing out, finding their new
Mhm.
home range, and they're
Mhm.
now those are the ones you're seeing coming into town,
Eating
Mhm.
people's dogs.
yeah, just like causing chaos and all that stuff. And so that's like to your point, we've pushed now our urban sprawl to these areas that they kind of have to like stay in this area.
Yeah.
So we have to like maintain and control that.
Mhm.
Yeah, Myron kind of summed it up as it's what the woods can handle and then what the public can handle.
Right.
Yeah.
And the public can handle less than the woods
Yeah.
at this point,
Yeah,
which
for
I think
sure.
is fair.
Yeah.
It's-
Yeah. No, I don't think we want the population to grow too much more than it is. And bears, and Myron would be better about answering this question, but I mean, you have to take out a lot of bears to keep them just where they are, not to take away from them. Like you have to kill a large percentage of the population to keep them from growing.
Mhm.
So I mean, like bears really are something that needs to be hunted more, just to keep them from like exploding in
Mhm.
population.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and also like they can be, they're hard on ungulates inside of the. I don't know as much here, but a lot of areas, they're hard on the ungulate populations. They really after fawns and calves
Mhm.
whenever that season comes, especially in the west. So
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot to, like you said, it is complex and there's a lot to kind of
Mhm.
consider and considering where you're at and the population in the area you're hunting and all that to go into it.
Mhm.
Um, I wanna go into now. This is going to be something that will apply not to all bear hunters, but maybe just Arkansans. We touched a little bit on baiting, but I want to go a little bit deeper. And in Missouri you can't bait for bears, right?
Yeah.
So this will just really apply to the Arkansans. But talk me through, like you said, it's not about exactly what, but it's about like how to think.
Mhm.
But just talk me through like what process you go through with bear baiting,
Mhm.
why you pick when you go, and where you set up and all
With
that.
baiting?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to so I go in the middle of the day to bait because I want them used to me coming in the middle of the day. I'm not going to go in and hunt early morning because I don't want to bump, target bears off of a bait because a lot of times they're eating all night. And so I'm
Just
going
getting fat and happy.
yeah, and sassy. Um, and so I'm going to go in there early afternoon and just sit till dark. And I'll I'll just sit till dark because a lot of times there's this thing I say is it's bear 30, and it's like especially like the last 30 minutes of daylight seems to be just like the time that these shadows emerge from the
Mhm.
forest. And if my trail camera is like hold true, I'm not going to experience that this year, hopefully.
Yeah.
But typically, those bigger boars are coming in, into daylight, and a lot of them. So I would say that's one thing that a lot of people that bait make a mistake in. And you'll kill bears early morning, but there's going to typically be more juvenile males. There's always exceptions to the rule, but you really want to go in the middle of the day, and then you want to sit until dusk dark.
So you really start your hunt like weeks prior because you're patterning them. You're
Mhm.
getting them used to you coming in
Yeah.
in the middle of the day, and then you're
Mhm.
talking about once you finally go to hunt, you're still going in the same time and then sitting till dark. Yeah. Okay.
And then they're used to associating me coming in with fresh food, like the bait being freshened up, and they're used to smelling me, during that time.
Yeah.
And so I'm spending time to condition these bears. This year, one of the things that is cool about the area I'm hunting is there's this massive drop off behind, like a sheer like 50+ foot drop behind, probably 15 yards behind where the stand is going to be. And that's going to make it to where they can't circle around us. So like if you can find a feature to where it makes it to where they can't do what they want,
Mm,
because a bear will always love to come in from downwind.
sure.
They don't want surprises. They want to know what's on that bait, who's there. And in Canada, a lot of times you'll have bears come in, big bears, knowing you're there, like they'll look at you,
Yeah.
and they just don't care because they're not around a lot of people, and for whatever reason, like they just don't care.
Yeah.
It's not really the case here. And we don't worry about scent control because you're never going to fool a bear's nose.
It's just too good.
Yeah. They can smell dead stuff from a mile away. Like you're not going to fool their nose. If you take a European mount of a deer versus a bear, like well, not on this one, but um, there's fine bones through their nasal cavities, and you can tell how well a critter can smell stuff based upon that lattice work.
Mm,
And a bear's olfactory system is astoundingly strong. I mean, several times stronger than even a bloodhound. And uh, yeah, you're not going to fool their nose.
so just don't try.
Yeah,
Like,
I've
it's not
heard
gonna
it.
happen.
I've heard it said that a bear comes into a room, and like if we came in the room, we'll be like, "Oh, well, you're cooking spaghetti,"
Yeah.
and a bear will come in and they'll smell the individual things that are inside of that spaghetti, or whatever.
You got a little basil. You got a
Yeah.
little thyme. In
Is
there.
that basil? And so they'll pick apart everything. So I mean, like, yeah, scent controls.
I remember Myron telling us, and it may have been when we went with him in the spring, but it made sense as when we were baiting the year before why our strategy worked, and we didn't know what we were doing. We were just guessing
Mhm.
at it. But I remember it was hot. We were putting up the barrels, trucking in food, and we had a bunch of people out there. And my dad was like, "What about scent control?" And I was like, It's not going to matter. Like we're just going to smell.
Yeah.
So we're just going to do it and see what happens." We, like I said, didn't know what we were doing. But then we were talking to Myron about it, and he was saying a bear's nose is so good that it can smell where you previously stepped and determine how old that scent is. So it can
Mhm.
go like, "Oh yeah, he stepped here 4 hours ago or 2
Mhm.
hours ago or whatever." And yeah, like you said, you're conditioning
Mhm.
them to that smell, which is just insane. But it also makes sense why you then get in your stand at noon and
Yeah.
then sit there. If they're going to smell something on the ground,
Mhm.
they're thinking, "Well, he left me some some
Yeah.
fresh bait, some fresh food, and I guess
Yeah.
he's not here
He was
anymore.
here,
He
yeah.
was here.
Yeah. And I mean,
Now
if
no.
I was going to go spot and stock, I wouldn't do that. I would just go,
Yeah.
you know. I mean, I think that if you were going to sit over a water hole or something, or you had a good indicator where one might be, you might try to slip in there early.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd rather be able to see, you know. I have hunted a bait in the morning, but it was one of those instances the wind was right and the bait was on the edge of a field and I was able to glass and I saw a bear there at daylight and I waited for that bear to leave and then I went and sat in there.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
So I mean like you can do that, but the idea of and the way to think about it is you don't want to bump a bait off a bear off of something that it's comfortable in, you know, something that it feels secure in and knows
Mhm.
like this is the place that I want to be.
Yeah.
And so you don't want to put something in there. I mean, I think even with scent control, I mean, like that's instituting a new scent that they don't know and it doesn't smell like it's something they want to eat.
Right.
You know, so like why use it?
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
What about I know you said it's not about what, but what are you using? Like what do you bait with? What's a good
Yeah.
bear bait for the Ozarks?
So we like to use variety. So I'm always keeping something, you know, I'm trying to put in something that's a surprise every time just for like the ones that come in. So I went and bought a lot of bait from the Elkins Co-op and I just got a variety. Like I took contractor bags and I got like 50 pounds of each thing or more. And so the first time I used like a chocolatey trail mix. And then the next time I went, I put out granola. And then the next time I went, I put out what did I put out? Well, something different.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not something that's super strategic. It's just Pop-Tarts.
Pop-Tarts. Yeah, that's right.
yeah.
Something different every time to keep them guessing or
Yeah.
keep them interested, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, bears are very curious creatures,
Mhm.
you know, and you just don't want them to get bored,
Yeah.
basically.
And
So-
with the mix of it too, you mentioned earlier Northwoods. You mentioned putting some grease in there. Why?
Yeah, yeah,
Kind of
yeah.
talk through some of that.
So I never do a bait without putting fryer grease with Northwoods, but it's a commercial scent additive that's super sweet and it smells amazing. Like baiting bears, if you started eating, if you like smell stuff and you just start eating, like baiting bears is not for you because you wouldn't be able to make it up the mountain by the end of the season. I mean, sometimes I pick up donuts
Yeah.
and it's like, oh man, this smells so good.
Like, it's not going to make it to the
Yeah,
site.
yeah. This time that was the new thing was donuts. But yeah, I just like to change it up, and keep them guessing, keep them excited. You know, there's some staples, and I find it seems like they really like protein. You know, like we feed cheap dog food and just soak it in that fryer grease too. And so just like, I mean, typically I'll put out like maybe 2 gallons of fryer grease with some of that Northwoods in it. And it only takes like a cap of it to really smell it. And then they have separate spray bottles that I get, and I'll spray it far off of the bait and spray it up in the trees and get it as high as I can because you know they trust their nose more than anything. So I'm trying to get that scent out as far as I can. So I don't want I just want to broadcast it the best I can. I want someone to walk up and before they see it, be able to smell it with their nose. You know, basically
A person.
Yeah, a person. And so, I mean, really like that. I think that's a good strategy to do. Dog food's something that we keep in there consistently.
Yeah.
And don't stray away from. And then we can in zone 1 we can start using corn this Friday, so September 1st.
Yeah.
And because we're in a CWD zone, and so we'll start using corn too. And basically, the thought process is, I want to put good things in there that the bears want, but then I also want some sort of staple that I can keep in there. Because the last thing I want is for a bear to come to there and not have anything to pick up. You know, I never want them to come there and think that they're not going to get an easy snack.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so we'll set up a roller barrel. So just 55-gallon drum, fill it with corn, and you know sometimes you can mix other stuff in there.
Yeah.
And then drill out a few small holes on the bottom where they have to bat it around and fight it.
Okay.
You know, to make it drop
You
out.
just like tie it to a tree
Chain.
with a
or-
chain.
With a
or
chain,
something?
yeah.
Cool.
And then we make it where they can't knock it all the way down. So they're just like always having to roll it to
Yeah.
make something come out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it kind of sounds like you have some kind of, I don't know what the right word is, but like some special stuff, and then you have like your filler,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's like volume, it's pounds, it's dog food, and it's just a bulk. It's a lot, and then you also have the other stuff that's like sweet and it's kind of special, and it's probably more expensive to get for the guy who's actually hunting, and like harder to find.
And then we're pumping up the caloric density with the grease. The other thing is when you mix that commercial scent with the grease, that scent sticks to stuff. And so you also want the bear to broadcast where the food is.
Yeah.
And so those bears will walk through the bait after they pull it out of these whatever, and they'll get that north woods with that grease on the pads of their feet, and they'll track it everywhere that they go.
Yeah.
And so basically we're sending out, heraldic bears through the mountains saying like, here's the way to the gold.
There's food
The
over
gold
yonder.
rush.
Follow my footprints backwards.
Yeah. And so that helps too. Like really you want to do things that broadcast that scent and let the bears know that they're going to be, that there's the holy grail.
Yeah.
And they need to find it.
Yeah. What about like, I'm thinking proteins, and you mentioned dog food, but like I've heard people say sardines, fish, stuff that's smelly. Do you put that stuff out?
Yeah, just make sure it's like something that's stabilized where it's not going to go bad.
It won't spoil.
Yeah, they don't like spoiled meat. At least from the experience, everything I've heard, they don't like spoiled meat here. Further up north, it's more of a thing. Like whenever you have harsher winters and stuff, I think they eat a lot more of that kind of thing. Like there's some outfitters in Canada that will bait beavers throughout the year, and then they'll put beaver carcasses out there, and the bears will sometimes go for it.
Yeah.
The other thing is you never know what a particular bear's wanting, and so I think variety is good for that too. In Canada, we'll hunt, and sometimes they'll just have a barrel of just straight corn, and then they'll have like a 55-gallon drum with nothing in it, and then they'll have a 35-gallon drum full of bacon grease. And some bears come in, they don't care about the grease. And some bears come in, and that's all they care about is the grease.
Yeah.
And so you just don't know what it is a particular bear is after.
Right.
And so I think variety is key, just so that they can find something that they like. It's kind of like you want to set up a buffet. You don't want to be like, hey, we cooked this one thing. That's all you get.
Yeah.
So you don't want to specialize.
We got boiled chicken tonight.
Yeah.
No one's hungry.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Something for my Missouri boys up north who they're not baiting. Talk me through spot and stock. If I'm a Missouri boy and I'm up in a stand and I see a bear walking through and I'm not over bait, what are my odds? Am I climbing down? Is it spot and stock, or am I saying, "Hey, bear, come here"? Like, what's the plan?
Check the wind. The other thing is, if a bear is really honed into a food source, they don't use their ears as much as a whitetail does. They're not a prey animal, Their nose is really king. So, if you're in leaves, like I would take my boots off and try to be as like slow as possible, toe first and kind of like ease it back onto the heel. But yeah, you just look at what they're doing, and the other aspect of that is a more juvenile bear will move a lot. A larger bear will meander. And so you might not have much time to make a move, but with a smaller bear, a larger bear will typically like hone in on food and just like stay still. A more juvenile, smaller bear, a lot of times they'll, move around a lot more.
Right.
So, but that could also be a good option to like, if they're moving a lot, they're making a lot of noise. You just really have to take into account a lot of things.
Right.
So, yeah.
Just be the best hunter you can be and think about the win, play it right, read the bear.
And sometimes you got to have losses before you can have a win.
Yeah.
It makes the wins fun.
Yeah.
Get lucky sometimes.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And then we always, as far as shot placement, we always say middle of the middle and forward just a little.
That's where I was going to go.
Yeah. So like a bear's organs are situated a little further back than a whitetail. So, and you want to stay away from that shoulder at all costs because it is tough.
That's where that mechanical broadhead
a fixed blade will
might not punch through.
Well, a fixed blade won't. a lot of times.
Oh,
Like they're
really?
just tough,
It's
man.
just that tough.
Well, I mean, if you think about the way that they're built, they're kind of like, especially a boar. He's super solid. You got all this thick, dense muscle. You've got the hair. You've got like thick fat. I mean, like if there was anything that was a target to stop broadheads, it would be that front shoulder on a bear. And so you want to stay away from that. And basically, if you think about just the body, you're not thinking about the legs or the head. And tail to the base of the neck, cut that in half, and then bottom of the gut to the back of the top back, and cut that in half. And you want to come forward a couple of inches.
Okay.
And basically, you really want to get lungs and maybe get up closer to the heart.
Yeah.
But I mean, you don't want to hit that shoulder at all.
Yeah.
And you really don't want to shoot at it like a whitetail. You're not
No.
going to the like where that it's not a shoulder, but the elbow joint kind of meets the bottom of the stomach, and you're looking for that little triangle.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
That's
You're just
shoulder
hitting-
territory.
You're
shoulder
not-
territory. You're just
yeah.
hitting fat.
You're
right?
not going to punch through.
You're just hitting ribs.
You're not going to punch through. I mean, a bear is very soft, and it doesn't take a lot of people kill bears like with 45, 50-pound bows. Like you don't have to have a heavy arrow. You don't have to have a long draw, a heavy draw. Like they're soft if you hit them in the right spot.
Yeah.
But if you hit them in the wrong spot, I don't even know if Cam Haynes's bow could knock through
Punch through
that.
Mm-hmm.
So just be cautious, and you want to try to get a blood trail as best as possible.
Yeah, talk to us a little bit about
yeah.
tracking. So maybe you hear the moan, maybe you don't.
If you hear the moan, you're in the chips. Call your buddies. And I've had my bear last year moaned like, I think it was like 9 times. It was pretty wild.
Wow.
This year, I heard my bear do a half of a bear moan. Like I just heard, "Ooh, ooh,"
Wow.
So it's yeah. If you hear the moan,
You're good.
you're in the chips.
Mhm.
Like seriously, call your buddies. You don't even have to go find it. You like go get the cart.
We'll find it later.
Yeah. If you don't hear that moan, it doesn't mean that the bear didn't die. Like they don't all moan. I mean, it's probably more common that they don't than they do. I would go find your arrow and make see the what happened. If you smell your arrow and it smells like guts,
Mm-hmm.
don't go after that bear for a while. Like give it overnight, because a bear hit in the gut won't go far if you don't pressure it,
Mhm.
and they will die. My first bear, I got in my shot cycle and then he moved, and it was a straight up gut shot. I was middle on vertically, but I hit far back, and man, I mean, we had a sparse blood trail the next morning, but we were able to go out there and recover it. He had
Wow.
only gone like 100 yards, The other thing is if you have an arrow come out that looks super clean, but you feel like you made a good shot, you probably did. Like their fur will clean an arrow.
Mm.
So like the bear I got a few years back here in Arkansas, but down the Washita's, it looked like that arrow just came out of my quiver. Like it was
Really?
just clean.
Wow.
Yeah. That hide, I mean that fur just cleaned it off. So you really need to be competent and know what it is you're doing, and focus more on your shot and not everything else. Like if you can get fixed in, like pick your shot where you want to hit, and then focus on the flight of the arrow, and where you hit, and that'll do you a lot more good than anything. And then pay attention to where the bear runs and stuff, and see what you can tell. But yeah, so if it's a gut shot, don't give up hope. If the arrow's clean, but you just know that it hit where you think it hit,
Don't give up hope.
don't give up hope. Yeah. The other thing is well, no, let's not talk about that.
I was going to ask you next on. Okay, so you got.
I
the
was
bear.
just gonna say sometimes bears will try to plug up their holes.
Oh, really?
I've heard this from several people, and enough to where I'm like believing it, and
Yeah.
I've kind of seen a scenario where I think that might have happened with the bear I shot.
Wow.
And they say that a bear will try to plug up their holes with leaves and mud
Wow.
if they can reach it. And so that's another good reason for, like, keeping it
Mm-hmm.
in between the middle and the shoulder
Yeah. Put it where they
can't
come out of
reach.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of don't like to talk about that sometimes because it's kind of like more human, And it's
It is
not
crazy
It's
to
not verified.
hear that.
That's one of those things that might be true.
It kind of exists as a wives' tale, but could be something
Could
to
be.
it.
It sounds,
Could be
it sounds to
something to
me
it.
like somebody made a bad shot and they're trying to figure out how to cover their butt.
I don't know. We had the bear that I shot. It laid down, and there was just this, like, we tracked it a little bit, and then we just found this just blood everywhere, and it was like it looked like the nest of something,
Yeah.
just big blood everywhere, like something had been laying there rolling around. Something's been going on, and we found that like 3 times. The first time we found it, we were like, oh yeah, we're in the
Yeah.
this is it.
Yeah.
Like, we're just gonna find this bear a couple yards up here.
All right.
And that happened like 3 times, and maybe we should back out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Give it some more
seriously.
time.
Yeah. You start second guessing.
Yeah, we eventually found the bear, and I mean, it's hard to tell if those things are true.
Right.
The other thing, if it, like, out west, there's a guy that shot a bear or shot at a bear, and we're not completely sure he hit it. We think he might have just like nicked it, and it just rolled down the mountain, and then it went off. And bears will roll, like voluntarily roll at times too. So I've read that in books.
Real books.
Yeah, end over end. Like hound guys back in the day talked about a bear to get to get away from pursuing dogs. Will just like roll up like a cannonball and bail off
Just take
down the
off,
mountain.
Roll
Yeah,
down the mountain.
they're
That's
so
crazy.
tough. They're so tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Golly, that's wild. Did you want to ask about once you
Yeah, I'd say
Get the bear.
once you got the bear,
Yeah.
what are the next steps? I know people talk about how the bear will spoil quicker than a deer or all that kind of stuff. And so is it
Man, it's just like a whitetail. You just, you want to, well, just like anything, you want to make sure that you have airflow into the bodily cavity, just cool it off as quickly as possible. And then it's just like a deer, except for you have pads instead of hooves.
Mhm.
And so,
But it's tough because usually early season it's hot.
yeah,
and it's sweaty.
man, they can go a lot longer than you think they can. It's mainly about airflow and shade. I mean, those guys out west, like, a lot of times you're hunting bears and it's just as hot as it's going to be here for the opener. So that, that 80s, 90s, whatever. I mean, you'd be okay as long as you get the hide off of the meat as soon as you can, and then just get the guts out. Just airflow's your friend, and shade. So I mean, I would take my game bags, even. I mean, just get them in game bags and get them hanging.
Yeah.
And that fat's can spoil faster than a lot of things too.
Okay.
Like that. I think that's the thing that's a little different, is you want to make sure you get the fat out, as much fat off of everything as possible, separate it all out.
mm-hmm.
And when you say get the fat off, are you leaving it on the hide so you can get it later as much on the hide, or you try to get as much off the hide onto the meat so you can pack it out that way?
I mean, I would get as much off of the hide as possible because you don't want your hide to slip,
Yeah.
Or anything to happen with it. And you want to lay the hide out, the fat side out,
Okay.
and just let it cool off. And then, but I mean, most of the time we'll try to get the fat by itself. So
Yeah.
we're not going to go so close to the hide that we're going to damage it. Like, we don't want a chance cutting through the hide,
Right.
A lot. I mean, a taxidermist, it's easy to sew those things up, but you just, want to be careful.
Yeah.
And then, from there, just separate everything out. We typically keep the fat in a separate bag than everything else. And bear fat can spoil inside of a freezer. So whenever you want to render it, within a reasonable amount of time.
Yeah.
It could be months, but you don't want to leave it in there a year and then go
Okay.
back and try to render it. You want to do it pretty quick.
What is the Kyle, when you shot your bear a couple years ago, there was that like webbing of fat maybe on the abdomen or the torso that we took out, and I've heard people will cook with that. Like they'll wrap like a deer steak in it or venison. Do you know what I'm talking about?
That's vanilla stuff.
Is it? Okay.
No, I've never used that, but I've seen, like, I really have seen Ranella do that with the
Yeah.
same thing out of a deer, where
Okay.
he'll wrap it and like make some sort of a meatball and wrap it in that lattice work.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I used to know the name for it. I don't remember anymore.
Man,
I remember saving it. We
I
took a picture
haven't-
with it.
Do you
Yeah.
I
know the
thought it was
name
cool.
of it?
I
Kolby?
haven't tried anything like that.
Man, I'm gonna try to go back and find the name.
Yeah, it actually. I mean, I would eat it. It looks good, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I'm gonna go as far as trying to save that for a single dish.
It's just so cool. Like you open it
It
up
is
and
cool.
it's so intricate and it looks like
Yeah.
a spider web in there of fat and the way that it's all
Yeah.
lattice work, like you said, is a good
Yeah.
way to describe it. I think it's cool.
Yeah, I focus on the quarters and the hide. You have so much going on a bear, and so much you're gonna pull out
Mm-hmm.
that some things just go to the wayside, And as bear hunters have a lot of utility in what they're hunting, and a
Mhm.
lot
Yeah.
of things that we use it for, just as just a way of life. Not even like, oh, it'd be cool if I did this or that. It's just like the way that you do it.
Yeah.
And so that's just something that's like, man, when you've gotten everything broken down and you know what's ahead of you, it's like, is that important to me? And if I haven't had any experience with it, I don't think it's that important to you
Yeah,
know.
sure.
And so I think that it's cool to utilize things like that, but it's not for me. I will say a bear heart is one of the best things I've ever had.
Mm.
Up in Canada, that we got there during the morel season,
Oh,
and so
heck
we
yeah.
cooked bear heart with morels.
Come on, man.
Oh man, it was one of the best things I've ever put
Oh,
in
that
my
sounds
mouth.
amazing.
Yeah. I will say this year, and since this is the Ozark podcast in Arkansas, you have to submit a fur sample with your premolar. So
Yeah.
check the Rex.
Oh, that's new this year?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know.
I didn't know they had the first sample.
Good to know.
Glad you told us.
Brand new.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm here for you guys.
Man, you're a good guy. You're a
Mhm.
good guy.
So it's hot. You got it field dressed. Got
Mhm.
skin off, fat off,
Mhm.
breaking it down. You're trying to do that all within that evening, that night, because it's
Yeah, I'm not going to leave it overnight.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you can use your best judgment.
there you go.
Yeah. I feel like the only time I would is if I shot this bear in like November
Yeah.
and it's cold.
I mean, even
Yeah.
with that, I would gut and get the hide off
For sure.
because they're so insulated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wouldn't leave a bear overnight unless it was for ethical reasons or recovery reasons.
Right.
And we had to with my first bear, and we pulled some fat off and it seemed okay, but the meat, we were like, I don't know. And it was supposed to be in the 40s that night.
Mm.
And yeah, we didn't feel safe pulling it out.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So,
Makes sense.
yeah, I wouldn't be as apt to leave it out there as I would a deer
Right.
at the
For
same
sure.
temperature. Yeah.
That makes sense.
The name of that fat is called call fat, by the way.
That's what-
C-A-U-L.
I knew that.
Yeah.
I knew that.
That's
Um,
what it is.
All right. I'm going to ask you one last question just to kind of wrap up the episode to get people hyped up if they're listening to this on the way to the stand. Favorite all time bear hunting story for you? Go.
I don't know, man.
Or
I-
just favorite hunt experience, even if you didn't kill a bear. Like, what was
Yeah.
just what kind of sticks out in your mind? Is like, man, that was so cool that I got to be there in that moment.
So on my hunt this year and up in Canada, it was cool because I had 5 bears there at one time. Like one of them was up in a tree, and the bear that I shot came out with his buddy. It's like they were like twin powering out there. And it was just such a beautiful bear as a cinnamon with a big old blaze on his chest. And I ended up taking him, and then not even 5 minutes later, the biggest bear I've seen whenever I was in the stand came up.
No way.
And it was a dark chocolate boar, came up to the base of my tree and looked up at me and then just meandered off. And I was just like, are you kidding me?
Wow.
Yeah, I've got it on my Instagram, I think. But that was a cool experience just to see like a big old pumpkin head, block-headed, just there's some critters that come out and you just like you're special.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And He didn't have to say it, but whatever his name is, I put some respect on it.
Oh man, that's cool.
I got a ton of hunting stories, but none of the other ones are coming to me right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to lock eyes with a bear too is something pretty.
Oh
cool.
man, locked on. The year before, I was hunting up in Canada, and a sow was in and out constantly all day, and she just came. She was so comfortable with me there, like I didn't know she was there, and all of a sudden I felt the tree stand shaking, and she had climbed a few steps up the tree stand,
Oh
and
man,
and then she leaned up against the tree like beside us, and was like shaking on that tree,
No
like
way.
like
Getting a good back scratch.
getting a good scratch.
that's
yeah.
amazing.
And then later, I had so I don't hunt up there without a thermocell, and I had dropped my wrapper to my cartridge, and I was like, oh man, I got to remember to grab that when I get down. And at the end of the day, that bear came and she laid on a log to the left of me about 7 yards, and like she was just napping, and then she like kind of sat on her butt and just started grooming herself, and I was like, she is way too comfortable with me here. And then she went back and she found that foil from that refill, and she flipped over on her back and she was batting at it with her paws, and I was
No
like,
way.
this is
Like
the
playing with
coolest.
it.
Yeah, and I was like, this is the coolest thing ever, and I felt so connected to that bear.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't care how big a bear comes in here. I don't care if it's a dink. If it comes and messes with her,
Yeah.
it's going down.
I got your back. I got your back,
you,
girl.
girl.
Oh man, that's so cool. Well, man, I'm sure you got to just have a lot of time around bears and getting to see them
Yeah.
interact and you interacting with them too.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's just pretty cool.
Man, one broke into the truck the other day. I had to chase off.
Oh yeah, you got to tell that story before we go.
Yeah. Well, so I had a buddy that helped me bait, wanted to help me bait, and he had never seen a bear. And I was like, all right, well, if you're gonna get an opportunity to see one, like this would probably be the best opportunity. And his name just happens to be Kolby and starts with a K too.
There you go.
And I was
Hey, that's like us. We got the same.
Yeah.
We don't know anything about that.
yeah. And so when K's get together, things happen.
Yeah,
K2. Anyways, so I was like, well, before we make a lot of racket and load up, let's just walk down and look off of the cliff. We'll probably be able to see if there's anything down there making its way to or from. And we were walking down there, and then saw a bear moving, and it took off. And so, hey man, you saw your bear. Like we thought, hey, that's worth the trip.
It's a good day.
We go back to the truck and we're loading up, and I have my pack ready, my frame pack, and I turn around to put it on, and there's a bear 40 yards working its way up the same trail we just came out of. And so, hey man, look, it's a bear. And at that point in time, I'm like, I don't know how he doesn't know we're here. Like he's got to know, but
Yeah.
he didn't smell the bait. The wind was in our face. I don't know what's going on here. And so I start talking to him and talking to the bear, just let him know I know he's there. And then he crescents around us, and he sits down at a tree that splits at like 15 yards to our left. And we're at the truck. We're not at the bait station. Like we're at the truck.
We're all the way back.
Yeah, it's like, what are you doing up here? And so he just sits there. He starts like licking himself. He starts like scratching. He's just chilling, like he doesn't care. And I told him, I was like, man, this bear is gonna break into my truck if we don't run it off. And so I go to run it off when I'm like, all right, that's enough. And it bluff charges me. And I mean, like from 15 yards, he came like 2 yards, but still, it's like,
Oh,
are you kidding me?
yeah.
And then, so I get the bear spray just because I was like, well, this is just weird. So at this point, like a bear that sticks close to a bait when you're baiting it happens, but it's like, we're at the truck. Like this isn't
Doesn't know
his,
the bait's
this
there.
isn't his domain. This isn't where he's safe. And so I get the bear spray. And then I was like, well, I just need to, he's not wanting to give up any ground, and I don't want to force the issue. So I just grabbed a rock and threw it, and then he kind of flinched. And so I was like, all right, there's my opportunity. And then I start pushing towards him, and he just runs off. I'm like, cool. And I was like, I'm still locking the truck.
Yeah.
So, and I've got a bed cap on my truck, so where all the bait is.
Yeah. Okay.
And so I closed the bed cap. I closed both knobs. I locked the driver's side one. I was like, surely that's enough. And I
Yeah.
locked the truck.
Yeah.
And then we're off to the races. We go bait. the first trip. We come back to get the second round, and the bed cap is open. I'm like,
What?
no, come on. It was
No
locked.
way.
Yeah. So we go up there, and sure enough, there was a bag of dog food missing. And my buddy looks, he's like, oh, I see him over there. And he was probably like 80, 100 yards through the woods. And we were just lucky to see him. Like, we saw like this little black patch.
Yeah.
And so I was like, he's not getting away with my dog food. So I take off after him. And then he doesn't
You
know
are
what's
wild,
going on.
man.
He runs off. And so I get I get it back. And man, it was just covered in seed ticks where he had laid on it.
Oh,
Yeah. Whew.
just all over. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, I got it back. The thing is, it's like in the grand scheme of things, that 50 pounds of dog food wasn't a big deal. But I don't want that bear associating the fact that he can just like take something from me and it's okay.
Yeah.
Like we were close to a cabin, off-grid cabin out there too, and the guy's kids, and them go out there, and it's like, I don't want him to have to come here and like this bear just learns that he can take what he wants and get away with it, or he goes to somebody else's house. It's like, man, I'm gonna haze this bear a little bit, you
Yeah.
know. And so I ran at him and took it, and then I just like kept pushing him a little bit, and then he finally like left and didn't come back. And after further investigation, it's like he knew what Knobs did. There was like a single scratch where he had opened up the passenger side lock on my bed cap, and then there was a bunch of scratches around the one that I locked, and then he just brute forced it open like it was kind of bent out in the middle,
Yeah.
and
Wow.
grabbed that dog food. And then there's scratches around the driver's side door handle where he was trying to open up the door handle. Yeah,
This dude's a bad man with JAMA. He's trying to get in
Yeah.
your truck.
yeah.
That's crazy,
He's
dude.
a juvenile male. Like, I mean, maybe he'll grow out of it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think it's the same bear I pushed off the bait today. Like, I think we pushed him off 3 times. So,
Damn, that is crazy.
Sounds like he's too brave for his own good.
yeah, he's a little brazen.
You took back a bag of dog food from a bear. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.